Yo, what's going on, everybody? I was just telling Omar, I was like, I always get, I don't know if nervous is the word, but I was like, I always get nervous before these if it's just gonna be me and the person speaking. And we already have like five people in here.
I just realized I'm in the group. I saw your message and I joined.
Let's go. Matt, what's up?
How you doing, guys? You all right?
Yes, sir.
Just having my tea, excuse me.
I like the hat, man.
Yeah, it's a good hat. Really like it.
Michael, if you want to maybe kind of, I guess like while we're waiting on people to join, kick us off with some of the what we were talking about, like just kind of seeing like where everybody's at with the topic.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
So did you want me to introduce myself or?
I think like right now we could just, I guess like see where everyone's at, like why people are joining, like what they're looking to get out of it, and then as
Yeah.
more people join, then we'll get into that.
That sounds good. Okay. Yeah, I'm curious to hear that as well. I mean, mindset's obviously a big topic, so be interesting to hear like what everyone's perspectives are and what they hope to get out of it.
Yeah, I guess if you guys want to maybe take turns, what me and because me and Michael just had a like a little private call like before this. I think one thing he was saying that would help him is if you guys could let us know like if there's any challenges maybe you're facing mindset wise, or like what you're looking to maybe learn out of this, and then we can make it more specific to who's on the call, if that makes sense.
All right. I guess I'm trying to look at different techniques of mindset to deliver to other people. I've got ways that I kind of deal with stuff myself, but it's probably not a coherent package of here's a formula, try that. I kind of my delivery would be more life experience that I've been through. So I guess I'm trying to put it into some sort of package, look at specific techniques maybe that I can pass on to other people and to obviously adopt myself. But yeah, just looking at other ideas and other concepts and stuff like that. So
Cool. Well, I'll definitely be delivering on that for sure. I have a pretty structured framework and process that, so everything I do is principle-based, meaning it's rooted in universal truths. I learned these principles when I was studying biomechanics, but there's tremendous value. There was tremendous carryover. The principles that govern movement are the same that govern behavior. There's really no difference. And so like a quick, for instance, would be, the body follows the path of least resistance, right? So if you sprain your ankle, and now let's say you're squatting, but you sprain your right ankle, you're going to slide to the left to avoid the injury. Well, the mind also follows the path of least resistance, right? So it's like the kid who raises their hand in class and asks the stupid question, right? They don't raise their hand again, right? So
Yeah.
taking the path of least resistance. And so I've rooted this entire experience in coaching principles that are timeless and universal.
What about Rosita? Any anything specific you're looking to get out of this?
I need to get out of my own way and execute. Okay, and ride the roller coaster of the why am I doing this? This is really going to work. Goes between delivering impact and then doubting myself. And staying positive and keep going. So
Rosita?
Yeah, yeah, I correlate with that Bernie, right? I'm on my phone. It's kind of small.
Dove.
Bernie.
You can say
Dover,
Bernie.
yeah, Bernie Doe. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this is really good what you said. I'm kind of in the same boat. It does sound vague, but also it strikes where it's at. If you know what you're talking about, then it's totally it. Otherwise, if you don't know, you'll be like, oh yeah, that's just like vague stuff, but it's not. Anyway, yeah, I waited to be last. I usually like go first right ahead, but like I've been to so many calls earlier today that I wanted to like kind of get into this energy and clear my mind so I don't spit out a bunch of bullshit. You know what I'm saying? But I'd like to work a little bit more on being able to see and pinpoint the BS, which like I'm usually pretty good. But I've noticed lately that I caught myself getting wrapped up in other people's BS teachings that I would follow blindly. when I see that, like I knew from the get-go that wasn't, like, following my gut is just super powerful. And trying to stay positive as when it comes to school, and me questioning my decisions. What the fuck am I doing with my life? When it comes to income generating activities, and like, how do I better spend my time and have more impact, and yet create more abundance in my life and more value in those that I serve. And all of those questions keep lingering, and I do meditate a lot and think of on them, but also I spent a shit ton of time in just listening to bullshit that is not relevant. And I'm kind of like sorting through that right now, and I was just journaling on it just to clear my mind. And that involves me letting go of some people in my life, and there's three different groups of those. First group is people I don't want to surround myself with anymore because I don't want to be like them. Okay. Second group is, they might be close to you and not necessarily mean bad or anything, but I call them, they don't believe in your success, and I call them dream killers. That's like, so just, you kind of can't do much about it because they might be like relatives or close to you people, but they're in your life. It's kind of sucks, but then you're responsible for seeing that and not allowing it to affect you in a way. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck are you doing? Oh, how is this
Yeah.
going to move the needle for you? And things like that.
Mhm.
It's just
Mhm.
one of those things.
Mhm.
So let's jump right into it then. I feel like that's a lot of good things that we can talk about. I'm sure Michael's excited to get into. Tell us a little bit, Michael, like your story a little bit. Like, how did you even get to the point of like teaching other people this and like being interested in this topic?
Yeah, well, I started personal training in 1999. I came out of I sold cars from ages 19 to 21. And so I learned how to sell, which has probably been one of the best skill sets ever. And then from there, I applied for a job at a local gym. It happened to be one of my good friends from high school. His sister was the manager. She hired me right away. I got a $99 personal training certification. I very quickly realized that people had a low physical capacity. So we would do pretty basic workouts, and they were getting injured. And so, it's like when you're a new trainer and your clients are getting injured, like let's say somebody can't squat. Well, that's one of the big moves that you would use to either help somebody lose weight or get strong. And if you can't do that and you don't know what else to do, the sessions become very limiting and uncomfortable. And so I started researching flexibility and want to understand mobility and things of that nature. And so, long story short, I became a massage therapist after several years. This is in 2006. So that's 7 years, but kind of where my career had headed. And then I had no idea how to combine the skills of personal trainer and massage therapist. And so I ended up finding a mentor, and he was teaching me how to blend those skills, but I was still kind of lacking a system. So I found this mentorship program that I took in 2009 called it's the Gray Institute for Functional Transformation. They basically work with all sorts of movement professionals, but what they do is they gift is a 40-week mentorship that teaches you how to think for yourself. That's ultimately what it did. And so while I was signing up to learn more about how to integrate personal training and massage therapy, they embedded frameworks that taught me how to assess movement, which techniques to pull out based on what I knew when I was qualified to perform. And it was called the PST thought process. Basically, there's a principle, there's some truth that governs whatever's happening in whoever's life and situation. Then there's a strategy that you employ based on that principle. And then there's a technique that you act out. And based on the reaction that you get from that technique, you go back to the drawing board and say, well, was that the right reaction or the wrong reaction? Long story short, what I ended up getting from GIFT was two major things. One was learning how to think for myself, which was crippling, to be honest, because as personal trainer, I can't say this is everybody, but at least for me, I was very protocol driven. So like, do these 5 things to get 6-pack abs, do these 5 things to get rid of back pain, do these 5 things to, And so you don't realize that you're being indoctrinated and you're not really thinking for yourself, which is actually, by the way, the entire physical therapy model. Not that anyone's doing it wrong. It's just there's only one way that you can really qualify a lot of people to do something, and it's to have everyone do the same thing, and it's not specific to the individual. And that's why, unfortunately, it doesn't work for a lot of people. In any event, and these were taught by doctors of physical therapy, by the way. So the second thing that I learned is that we're an interconnected mind, body, and spirit. And so while people, come to you to enhance the body, it's often the mind that's holding them back and their spirit that's suffering. And so that basically led me to develop a corrective movement therapy practice where I was blending personal training, massage therapy skills. I took that all the way up to the pro level. I work with several pro athletes very successfully. And interestingly, my personal training practice started unintentionally morphing into more of a coaching engagement. And I would find when somebody would hire me and say, I want to lose weight, or I want to get in shape, whatever the goal was, I wouldn't be so quick to get on the exercise floor with them. I really want to understand, how'd you get into this situation to begin with, right? Robert Frost says the best way out is through, right? So we have to understand, or there's actually a great quote by Einstein that said, if I had 60 minutes to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes defining it and 5 minutes solving it, right? Charles Kettering said, a problem well stated is a problem half solved. And so the problem is we with urgency, we rush to action and we don't create the space to really develop the awareness that we need to actually improve our situation. So I would find myself for months in my personal training office, just on the whiteboard, like geeking out different ideas and having deep conversations. Long story short, I was learning how to ask better questions, but I started hearing a lot of things about people's lives that I had no idea what to do with. And so I started becoming overwhelmed by all of the information. I felt like I was a bit out of my lane at that point, and I wouldn't know where to start. And so I started creating these different models. Some of the ones that I shared, last time in the connection call, and it just helps me, but it also helps them. Like 50% of our brain is dedicated to vision. And so there's so many beautiful quotes around awareness, but one that comes to mind is Richard Rohr said, new seeing leads to new ways of being. And so I'm always trying to not cause people to take new action. I don't coach behavior at all. It's more how do we expand our lens and see the world through a bigger lens? We can call that abundance. Wayne Dyer said, abundance is not something we acquire, it's something we tune into, right? And so it's more of an expanding the lens. And so, yeah, it's unintentional. I've unintentionally become a coach. It's principle based. So as I mentioned earlier, these are universal ideas. They kind of apply to everyone, and people are appreciative for the frameworks that I've shared that make complex things simple and accessible so that they can apply it and their lives actually change.
Can you there is the I don't know what it's called, but basically like when you were talking about how our thoughts are connected to like the behaviors, I'm talking about?
Yeah, the graphic that I put into the
Yeah, I think if you could go through that and break that down, and then I feel like then we can open it up for questions, and that I think that gives everyone a good understanding of the way that you look at things.
Okay.
And then from there we can jump into the questions. But you did a really good job of breaking that down last time.
Cool. All right. Yeah. So there would be, these are just all of the models that I'm constantly sharing. I think this is probably the best one to start with, and it will lead to what you were just asking about, if that's all right. So I've got a model for pretty much everything I talk about, and this, don't know how it created, I don't know that I created it. I feel like it created itself through me, if that makes sense, but this has become the mothership of all of my models. I could literally take every single one and it fits into this. And so within just a couple of minutes, hopefully this will create some clarity. Okay, so I help people understand the relationship. Well, let me just first say this. I don't believe in trying to change, fix, or improve ourselves. I believe in expanding our conscious awareness, our understanding of ourselves, and that naturally changes, fixes, and improves things. And so this identity reality model observes the relationship between identity, which is who you think you are, and your reality, which is how you're experiencing your life, right? And so basically someone who has a positive self-image is going to reflect a positive reality. And so, this is like your outer world mimicking or projecting your inner world. And then somebody with a negative self-image is experiencing a negative reality. And so the first thing I always say is, no one's positive or negative. We're all positive and negative. And so the first thing I start with is the positive. My stance is that, actually, I'll just flip over here real quick. Goodness is inherent in creation. Okay. Creation manifested 13.8 billion years ago, and goodness is the oldest story in the book. And so the stance of my company, we can't become good because we already are good. We can only wake up to our goodness, humbly receive it as a gift, and powerfully express it as the life that we want to live. And so this idea of goodness really becomes the foundation of putting your life back together, because as human beings, we don't really have a very good capacity to stave off the good news until we get there. And so I try to front load like, hey, all you are is this unimaginably good thing of
I stopped
infinite
hearing
inherent.
him.
Oh, did
I can hear
somebody?
you.
I can
Okay.
hear you too.
Okay.
I can hear you, bro.
I just keep going.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. So we're born good, and goodness has three qualities to it. This is really important, and it's fantastic news. Goodness is unconditional. Right? There are no conditions in which we are ever anything but infinite goodness, right? And so, we often hear like happiness as an inside job. Well, most people tie their happiness to external circumstances, but that's not happiness. That's called conditional happiness. There's strings attached. And so we all want to experience happiness that is separate from our circumstances. Goodness is also unlimited. So it goes on and on and on and on. And it's unearned. It's just a gift. We can only learn how to receive it. And so I have this little phrase, humble receivers of abundance are powerful expressors of abundance. We all want to act out and express and do our best by way of powerful action, and that's fantastic. But culturally, we're not very good at receiving abundance. And so this is where like a meditative practice comes in. And Rosita was saying that she does have meditation. And I would just say, not all meditation is created equally. People don't know to go and use meditation as a way of connecting to something deeply good about themselves. And so, but once you do know that, then that's something that becomes an option for you. So then what happens is we're all impacted by the emotional wounds of shame, abandonment, and betrayal. All of us, okay? This crossed both East and West cultures. What happens is when we have an experience, it's particularly a painful one, it's kind of like you are what you eat, right? You also are what you experience. And so when you get rejected, you're not just rejected, you become the rejection, right? All experiences are embodied, okay? And so there becomes an entanglement between what happened to us and who we think we are, right? In fact, it's very difficult to see who you are apart from your life experiences. Now, somebody who's embodied a negative identity by way of adaptation to painful experiences will now subconsciously project their pain, and it will now show up as a negative reality. These are all the challenges that everyone's facing, okay? Now, we get sick and tired of being sick and tired, of doubting ourselves, of feeling insecure, of being on again, off again, all of those patterns, having toxic people in our lives. And then we say, you know what? That's it. I'm going to start to try to create a real positive reality. I'm going to set a schedule for myself. I'm going to cut myself off from toxic people. The list goes on and on and on. But what happens is, as you know, we often fall back into our old patterns. And that's not because we're lacking motivation, discipline, or willpower. It's because you have to appreciate you cannot create a positive reality when fundamentally you are trapped inside of a negative identity. And so the effort associated with creating that positive reality feels like a chore. That's where the phrase no pain, no gain comes from, right? This is why people often experience effort as obligatory, right? It's in contradiction to how they actually feel about themselves. So when people fall back into old patterns, that's actually truth being revealed to them. They're now falling back into alignment with how they actually see themselves, which is honest, right? And so, but we tend to bastardize that, and it's not a good idea. So what I do is I help people recognize that we're not trying to change our reality. We're really trying to transform our identity. So I bring their attention back here and I help them know who they are apart from the experiences that cause them to have a poor self-image to begin with. And so there's a great question. It's very simple. Who am I apart from? And then fill in the blank. Who am I apart from a critical parent? Who am I apart from being betrayed by my friend? Who am I apart from what people say, what I have or what I do for a living, right? And so, and then the answer is, I'll tell you what the answer is, all I am is goodness, right? And so now there are practices, and they're none of this is complex. There are practices that help you to receive, become the humble receiver of abundance. But now let's say you're back here and people experience this very quickly. Two really cool things happen. Number one, the effort now associated with a positive reality is experienced as opportunistic because it feels like a natural expression of who you are. Rather than trying to become something, you're just expressing what you are. And then the other thing is, as you embody a powerful identity, you then start, your negative reality starts to fade because it is now in contradiction to the positive identity. So I'll just pause that right there. I know that was a lot, but I feel like that would be a good thing to like maybe set the stage and then we can go into that other framework you mentioned.
That was a lot.
Was it too much?
No, not too much. It's just a lot where it gives me uh, thought for food for thought, you know, for like homework to think, rethink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Repetition's the mother of all learning. I'll pull it back up for just a quick sec to put it into, okay, we're born good. We fall into negativity by way of wounds, emotional wounds. We then act out our wounds. We try fixing those patterns. We fall back into our old ways. Then we return to the identity side and we ask, who am I apart from things? We become this. Well, we actually already are this. And so there's two identities that we all have. We have a real identity, an absolute identity, and a relative identity. Our absoluteness, I know there's a lot of people who believe in God here. I try not to use the language just because I don't want to push anybody away, but there's who you are in God, which never changes, right? Right. And so that's your infinite goodness. And then there's who you are according to the experiences that you've been part of, and that's your relative identity. And so it's trying to connect people back to what's absolute because we need to anchor to something that never changes, right? That's the order we need in order to pursue the chaos of our potential. So that's it in a nutshell. And once you hear this a few times, then you start seeing where you get tripped up. Oh my gosh, here I am. I'm in this place of negativity. I'm trying to do something good for myself and it doesn't feel good to do this. And you're like, here I am. It's not what you're doing, it's the who that is doing it. And so then when I find myself in that place, I'll push back away from my desk. I go to eyes closed. I become that humble receiver. All I am is goodness, right? Then it's about expressing that goodness. I'm not trying to become good. I'm not trying to prove anything. I'm not trying to fix anything. I want to express the goodness that I am. And we really need to get out of the change, fix, improve mindset. And there's a wonderful quote that really sums it up beautifully by Dan Millman. He said, the secret to change is to put all of your energy, not into fighting the old, but into building the new. And so we don't need to try to fix things. We can just do the new thing. And it's
True, yeah.
very empowering.
What might be helpful is if anybody wants to mention maybe, hey, this is the mindset challenge that I'm having, and then you could help show us how to apply what you just talked about to that specific thing.
Yep.
So if anybody wants to be that first volunteer, Drew, yeah.
First, this is amazing. This actually.
Hey, what's up, Drew?
What's up, Michael?
Yeah.
I would say my mindset is you've actually lived it and almost, I'm not saying overcame it, you actually lived it. Being a trainer and then realizing that people are triune, like I need to help people and more than just getting them squats and ab crunches and things like that. How did you get the mindset to say, this is what I'm going to do and I'm going to be okay with it not looking like everything else or everything I've naturally been taught from that world?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. So I went through that mentorship program in 2009. I don't know if you're on the call at that point. And that taught me about the interconnectedness of mind, body, and spirit. So there was a seed that was planted. Then the next year I was invited to teach for them. And so I got to go through it 2 years, which was phenomenal. And so what happened was in December of 2010, I was walking through my personal training studio, and we're nearing New Year's resolutions. And so I had realized that a lot of the people who came to us for the last year's resolutions were still fundamentally in the same problem. And that's where I came up with this idea. We're interconnected mind, body, and spirit. And so I use this, I use this little thing to share, right? So we're a mind, body, and a spirit, right? And so as a personal trainer, people come to me for the body, right? But it's the mind that holds them back, and it's the spirit that suffers, right? And so this is a great way to talk about these ideas. And then it also created space for us to actually get into the coaching office and start having some meaningful conversations, because they see you're not having a body problem, you're having a mind problem that's manifesting in your body. And then, where we get to in the conversation is, we're not mind, body, or spirit, we're all the time. Well, you can't separate them. And so the issue is that we try to compartmentalize facets of our experience. And that's a lie. That's false. That's what it means to live out of alignment with a principle or a truth. And so an example of that would be, we go back here and okay, so everything I do, as I mentioned, is principle based. And so let's just say we have this principle of goodness, right? And so the principle of goodness, when you're in alignment with the principle, it states that it's unconditional, right? Which means there are no conditions in your life in which you're ever anything but good. Now, if somebody says, I need to be healthy so that I can be happy, right? What they did was they just placed a condition, not only on their happiness, but fundamentally on their goodness, on their worth, right? On their inherent value. And so, but that's what causes them to suffer, is because they're living out of alignment with the truth of their goodness. Does that make sense? So it's really,
Yeah.
it's the Bible verse. It's the truth will set you free, right? And so it's helping people see how they're living out of alignment with fundamental truths, and that's what causes the suffering. But the suffering is, and I always tell my clients, like, we're not trying to get rid of suffering, right? Like, it's not that I want you to suffer. It's just suffering is the environment that creates a tremendous sense of vulnerability, open-mindedness, right? To actually learn how to see the world in new ways. Nothing motivates us more than pain, right? And so I allow the pain to be present. I tell my clients to not try to get rid of it, be present to it, because that pain will show you where to go, what questions to ask, what to look for. So yeah, it's obviously it's a very different, because we're in a culture where we're always trying to get rid of our pain. And that's a problem, right? Because pain is the transformational zone, man. It's how the caterpillar becomes a butterfly, you know. So.
I always say love and light and all the shite. That's what I say. Love and light and all the shite. You've got to suffer. You've got to go through the pain. You've got to go have it. But yeah, still keep shining bright. Yeah, absolutely.
How'd you get to that?
How do you get to what? Sorry.
Yeah, how'd you get to sharing that? I mean, like, you must have had some life experience that caused you to.
Well, I just but like I'm a yoga teacher, so spirituality is a big thing, and there's people that bypass the pain, and it's all like love and light, and everything's fantastic, and everything's marvelous, and everything's magical, and we just can just steam through, and everything's going to be perfect, and it's like, well, that's not reality, is it? We all have stuff in our life that causes us pain and upset and disturbances and stuff like that. So I just thought, well, love and light, sure, because we need that love and light, but we got to embrace the shite as well, haven't we? We got to hold it. We got to see it. We got to swim in it sometimes, and so that we can, like you said, come out the other side stronger, with a broader perspective, greater experience, and an understanding of reality. Really, yeah. So yeah, and yeah, I've been through my fair share of shit as well. So.
Yeah. And also, I mean, what's beautiful about that is that it's true. Right? Because if you do try to just do the love and the light, there's a rude awakening, because that's just not how things work.
One thing I think that would be helpful for probably everyone on here and anybody that watches the replay is what Dov was saying is like, when we came on, it's like, what are you looking to get out of this? He was like, man, I just kind of want to get out of my own way. I feel like that's how a lot of us feel. It's like, we know what we need to do, and it's not anything stopping us other than maybe probably like ourselves. So I don't know if Dov, you want to maybe explain what specifically, or if it's better for Michael to talk about it in general, but whatever you guys feel comfortable with. But I feel like that would be a good topic for us to touch on.
I can
love
pull up a
everything you're
model.
saying, Michael. Yeah.
We can talk through it, but I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dov.
No, I love everything you're saying, resonates. And when I say get out of my own way, it's, I know what to do, and it's the doubt. It's the doubt. The doubt, the ultimate evil is doubt. I mean, I once heard somebody say, that the Garden of Eden, the snake, the all of evil starts from the what the snake did to Adam, to Eve, is all he did is create doubt. Basically, God told them, you are set, you got everything you need. And what the snake did, he said, hey, he just created doubt in her. He created a doubt, like maybe I misunderstood, maybe I'm not deserving of that. And that doubt is the source of all pain and suffering. And so when I say get out of my own way, it is that, and I'm a Tony Robbins guy, and Tony Robbins, his mantra is, now I am the voice. Okay, now I am the voice. I'll believe, not follow. I'll believe, not doubt. I'll create, not destroy. That is the most powerful. And what we, in the Jewish tradition, we have the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. It's the voice. And Jordan Peterson, makes a point in his book that the thing about that voice, it's a rational voice. It's not like the voice is right. The voice is saying, who do you think you are? You can't do this, is correct. And so, but you have to overcome that voice. You have to and so therefore overriding that voice and saying, you're right, but I'll do it anyway. It's not get rid of the fear. And so everything you're saying, and when I say get out of my own way, basically, so again, we talk, there's the famous Bible story, Torah story of the angel confronting Jacob. Okay. And there's a part there with Jacob, the angel asked Jacob's name. What's your name? As Jacob says, well, my name is Jacob. And then he changes the name. And Jacob says back to the angel, well, what's your name? That's a reasonable question, right? And the angel doesn't, instead of responding, the angel says, why do you ask my name? And because what the angel's saying is, I don't have a name. I don't exist. I am you. I'm not a separate entity. I am you. Okay. So why do you ask my name? And when the light comes up, he disappears because he doesn't exist. He is that voice inside of you. And so when I say, but the reality is that doubt, I know I'm delivering impact. I know what I'm, and still my fear and doubt that maybe I'm not creates this terrible, I end up being needy. Okay. Like my wife says, the reason parents will take advantage of me, so to speak, is they see, and I tell this to parents, I need the impact I'm having on the kids more than the money. I make it clear that I want the success, I want their acceptance, and I want the impact more than want the money. So the parents will say, okay, great, I'll get it all for free,
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm kind of like a behavioral detective. So Jonathan Bowlby has this great quote. He said, we're only as needy as our unmet needs. Right. And so what you may not realize, and it took me a long time to figure this out, but all of our behaviors, I would say the most powerful driver of our behavior is, it's not greed, it's not lust, it's not power, it is our unmet needs. Right. And so we're always trying to get our needs met. There's a reason that they're called needs, right? They're not nice to have, they're need to have. And so when it comes to needs, ultimately, for all intents and purposes, our parents were meant to fill that bucket, right? Fundamentally speaking, but our parents also can't meet all of our needs, right? And so, like, for instance, a need to feel connected to something bigger than yourself, your parents will never fulfill that for you. Though when you're young, it probably feels like they are that to you. And so you're trying to get your needs met, but because you're seeking to get that need met outside of yourself, that's where the suffering comes in, right? And so, but this experience wheel will be really helpful. Actually, I think we could just apply, we can make this about everybody rather than just Dov. Okay, and so I mentioned earlier that I used to get very overwhelmed when I started asking my clients good questions, and I didn't know what to do with all the information that I was getting. And so I came up with this model called an experience wheel. Of course, it wasn't that when I first created it. But the first thing I would do is somebody would come to me, for hiring.
Do you mind opening that in a full screen just so it's like easier for people to maybe see?
Oh, sure. Yeah, you got it. Yeah. Before I do that, let me just come here real quick. So there's this model that I developed called practical suffering, and I can actually blow that up. Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Continue to share. Okay. So practical suffering, I feel like this is why people hire coaches and such, is if you think about it, you're doing things that you don't want to do, right? Procrastinating, people pleasing, struggling with perfectionism, the list goes on and on. You're not doing things you don't want to do, right? You want to pursue a hobby, you want to spend more, you want to give your kids your undivided attention, whatever those lists are, right? But you don't know why. And that's what causes the suffering, is the not knowing why, right? And so what we're all suffering endlessly is our ignorance, right? And this is why George Santayana said, those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And so if you keep behaving in a way, some problematic way, let's just say you're doubting yourself, but you don't, the problem is that we try to change our behavior. So actually, let me just, see, now this is not letting me scroll. Hold on.
Let us repeat until learned.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's learn or repeat. The problem is that we all try to rush to action because we've been conditioned to believe that action is the most important step in change, but it's not. It's the fourth most important step. The most important is awareness, right? So if you don't know why you're doing something that you don't want to do, and you don't expand your awareness of it, you will continue doing it. And so once the awareness does expand, that's what helps somebody to develop the accountability, the self-accountability, not the coach saying, you got to stop doing that. The person saying, oh my gosh, here's why I'm doing that, right? That's the truth setting them free. Their eyes need to be, the veil needs to be parted. They need to see what's happening. Then that can move them into a state of acceptance of the behavior before they can actually take productive action on it. And then once that rhythm is flowing, obviously they're establishing a sense of agency within this entire process. So this is obviously some reconditioning for people. We're a very action forward culture. People try to rush to doing the right thing. But again, it's about clearly defining the problem and creating that space for awareness, because the awareness is what precedes the transformation. It's not the new action, it's the expanded awareness. So back to this model now. Maybe we could just come up with a collective list, like, I'll explain it briefly. Okay. So everyone has challenges, symptoms. That's why they would hire somebody like me. And then, of course, there are behaviors that they're participating in that are causing those symptoms to emerge. Now, at this point, this is the traditional behavior change model, by the way. Hey, you're doing this thing you don't want to do. You got to stop doing it, and then your symptoms will get better and improve. It's like, well, yeah, but there's a lot more to consider. This is really important, by the way. You're only observing, when you're looking at your challenges and the ways you're complicit in them, you're only observing what is happening. Right? And when you are observing what's happening, you only have one choice, and that's to be self-critical. You will be, okay, if you are your own biggest critic and worst enemy, it's because you are obsessed with what you're doing and you just don't have the perspective on why you're doing it. And so just by shifting the focus from the what to the why, we actually move from being self-critical to more self-compassionate, kind, gentle, understanding, empathetic, all those things. So the question, and most people don't know the answer to this, but the answer is right here on the screen, what is it that drives behavior? Right? And it's our beliefs, right? So what you believe about yourself. So if you looked at a behavior some way, so Dov mentioned, self-doubt, right? He's acting out a belief, right? There is a belief that's implicit in the behavior. Okay, now, Then, of course, the $1,000,000 question is, well, what formed the belief? And it's an experience. You've had experiences in your life that have caused you to doubt yourself. Right? So there's nothing wrong with you. You're actually a perfect adaptation to all of your life experiences. And so, the experiences that cause you to doubt yourself become the belief that I don't trust myself, or I can't create the right reaction, or I'm never going to win, right? Then it leads to the behaviors of getting distracted and procrastinating and putting yourself down and overextending yourself and overcommitting. And then, it leads to fatigue and depression and sadness or anxiety or frustration. So this is, in essence, how I help people to look at their lives as a story, because that's how we make sense of the world, is through story. And so when we can actually start to zoom out and see the big picture of why things are happening, what that does is it creates, there's a great quote by Dr. Robert Holden. He said, no level of self-improvement will ever make up for a lack of self-acceptance. Okay, so you can improve yourself and improve yourself and improve yourself. But what you don't realize, what you're actually trying to do, and don't take my word for it, just watch yourself. We often try to improve ourselves so that we can accept ourselves. But that approach never works. It's the same thing as the person who says, I need to be healthy before I can be happy. And so I love the quote, because it helped me realize that that's what I was trying to do with my clients, even though I didn't realize that that's what I was trying to do. But the thing that facilitates self-acceptance is self-understanding. And that's why awareness is so important, right? And so when I take people through this wheel and they're able to connect the dots and differentiate between the challenges that they're facing and why they exist, right? There's a lot of self-acceptance, there's self-forgiveness, there's that softening, right? And it's like, wow, I'm doing the best I can with what I've got, right? And that's a very different, that's how you come back into right relationship with yourself.
So let's say you're having self-doubt.
Yeah. So that would go under behavior.
So let's say using this model right here, what would somebody do to kind of overcome that and change it?
Yeah. Okay. So let's just say the doubt is the behavior. Now let's just say, what kind of circumstance does that give rise to? What's the symptom, the result of the self-doubt?
Maybe let's say, I guess, like what he said, like you're being more, I guess, like needy to your clients. We're like, man, I really gotta get these sales.
I come off needy, and basically that creates the opposite effect. Instead of being able to help them, they sense it.
Yeah. Okay. So then there's neediness, and then I'm assuming there's all sorts of unpleasant emotions associated with that. I know it's exhausting. Certainly been there. Okay. So then the question is, what does the behavior of doubt suggest you believe about yourself?
Well, am I really? Can I really do this? Am I really helping? Is this the right path? Okay, maybe I should do something else. Maybe maybe I'm not as good as I thought, or maybe the value, maybe it's not valuable, and
that's a really good list. Most people give me a half of a sentence, but that was like 5 examples. Awesome. So now the question is, what life experiences, particularly formative, cause you to believe all of these things?
Oh, I can identify. Goes way back to childhood. I mean, I was bullied, in school, in elementary school. I mean, and that created, self-doubts, from an early age. And all the acceptance later on. In fact, when I was 18, I would describe my life in 2 parts: before computers and after computers. Before computers, I was the shyest person. I would not speak up. And when I got into computers and suddenly became valuable in school, suddenly my entire life changed.
Yeah.
But it didn't, so I saw power. Suddenly everybody, I had a value. And even the work I did became a point system. It wasn't how much I made. I didn't need the money at that time. Well, of course, now I do. But it was a point system. The amount of money I was making was a validation that I'm worth something. But it never, but apparently, never undid the doubt, the deep doubt, the hole from way back. And so my life becomes like the reason I talk too much, the reason I is because I'm constantly trying to express that I have something to offer, and not believing that deep down, and which creates the opposite effect.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that. What would you guys, how would you categorize it? I think it's all three, but if we had to pick one, is being bullied, which is pretty common. I experienced that same reality. Do you interpret that as a shame, abandonment, or betrayal wound fundamentally?
Shame, I guess.
Yeah, I could see all of them, but what happens is a really good way to think about a wound is it's like a language. Okay, so if you start getting shamed at an early age, you then start to become fluent in the language of shame, and you're not excluded from that. And so you become self-shaming. And so to doubt yourself constantly is shaming, right? It's a way for you to express unprocessed shame. Yeah. So then the solution, okay, because that's obviously what we're all looking for. It's like, how do I do it? How do I do it? Ultimately, what I help people do is I take them through a technique called, let me just take this down, actually. I take them through a technique called a meditation conversation. Really simple, right? So like my eyes are open, so I'm attuned to my outer world, right? But as soon as my eyes go closed, I turn my gaze inward, right? And so it's kind of like my symptoms are all around me, right? But the root is within me. And so I need to close my eyes and direct my attention to the root of the challenge. And so then you go back to, so let's just say, for instance, you go back to the bullying, okay? You don't go back to re-traumatize and open a wound. You have to realize the wound's already open. The can of worms is open, it doesn't, people get scared that they're going to open the can of worms. It's like, no, the can of worms is already open. And there's a lot of evidence of that in your life. You go to the experience to complete it. It's not complete. It's incomplete. So traumatic experiences, and I understand trauma exists on a spectrum. There's little t and big T. But traumatic memory actually doesn't get stored like other memories, right? It's like the example that I read in The Body Keeps the Score is, if you think of a filing cabinet, like there's nowhere to put a traumatic memory. So it just remains an open loop, just constant chaos. It's the dragon. It's just constantly swirling, right? And we're distracted and we can't focus and we self-sabotage and all of these things. So what you do is you go back to the experience, and then you give yourself what you needed. You, adult you, go back to child you and give your child self what they needed in that moment. Maybe they needed a hug. They usually need a hug. A lot of people say they start talking, oh yeah, you're doing fine, you're doing great, there's nothing wrong with you. It's like, yeah, you're speaking to the head. We gotta drop down to the heart, right? So you have to give the child what they needed at that time. And then that obviously creates, now you've transformed the reaction from the experience that happened long ago, right? Because you now just gave yourself something that you actually weren't capable of getting, at least from yourself at the time, or from the people around you. And just because the experience happened a long time ago, it doesn't matter. A really helpful way to think about memory and emotional wounds is, if you sprain your ankle, and now 20 years has passed by, but you never had it properly rehabbed, it's still going to function like a sprained ankle. It doesn't matter how much time passes. And it's the same thing with traumatic memories. Doesn't matter how much time has passed. Anais Nin has this great quote. Sorry if I'm talking too fast. She said, "We don't see things as they are. We see them as we are." right? So you embody the experience. You become the bullied experience. Your threat detects, the amygdala is firing. It's constantly scanning, right? But that's occupying tremendous resource that you're trying to direct into a creative endeavor, but you're being pulled in many directions, right? So you go in, you give yourself what you needed. Then, of course, I have people go in and bring infinite goodness to their child self. Now, there's other things to consider, but like in a nutshell, like that's essentially what I do. And what you're doing is you're helping people integrate the pain, because we were talking about how powerful pain is, right? Like if it's working against you, it's holding you back. But once you integrate that pain, then it actually becomes, so like the anger or the sadness or the confusion, you then actually get to integrate, and that becomes part of how you engage yourself in your life. And then if you have, like, for instance, if you do a good job of integrating your anger, then you become more boundaried as a person naturally, right? So like somebody who has low boundaries, typically they have not integrated their anger. As they learn how to integrate their anger, they start saying no. Not because they all of a sudden got their shit together. It's because they've actually taken the energy that's been pulling them back. It's now integrated and becomes part of their life force. So yeah, it's that I don't know if that helps, but that's kind of the roadmap.
Yes.
Anybody have any questions or thoughts?
Well, you're talking about, healing back, going back and healing that trauma. And I hear what you're saying about, it's not, don't worry about opening the can of worms. The can of worms is open. and that's, but I don't know how to, what you're describing, to give that, go back.
Yeah.
What I do is constantly try to fix it now. And by creating by fixing it now, in the impact, in my impact now.
Yeah, but that's in the identity reality model. Like a helpful way to think about identity is it's a projector, and your reality is a projection. So when you try to fix the external issues, right, you're only affecting the projection, which is an illusion. And that's why it never changes. Whereas when we go in, we do inner work, you're addressing things at the level of identity, right? Then you can come back to rest. Your soul can be at rest. You can start to experience peace and joy because there's not constant threat occurring, right? So that's the fundamental difference. It's an absolute waste of time. I'll say it as strongly as I can, to try to change thought, feeling, or action. And so D, this is the other model that you asked me to pull up. Okay, so your identity, we already know now, right? Who you think you are, right? So somebody who has a negative identity is limited and or has a poor self-image. And then somebody who obviously has a positive self-image, is powerful and, is unlimited in nature. They can, they see the glass half full, so to speak. Okay, so let me just make that full screen. Okay. So, somebody who has a poor self-image, they're going to be biased toward limiting thought, fearful emotion, and protective behavior, protective action. That self will always think, feel, and act those ways, always. So there's no point in trying to change those things, because your behavior is just an expression of your identity, which is how you're seeing yourself, right? Whereas our inherent goodness, right, our powerful self is biased toward affirmative thoughts and loving emotion and constructive behavior. And so it's the psychology, right, is following the cosmology. The cosmology is who you think you are, how you see yourself, how you became who you are. And so I spend zero time trying to change thought, feeling, or behavior, because it's a waste of time. It's like if I ask somebody with a limited identity to have affirmative thoughts, loving feelings, and behave constructively, I'm asking them to lie to themselves, to be something other than how they actually experience themselves in the world. And so that's why it ends up being a waste of time. So the best way to improve mindset is to help somebody see themselves in, there's actually, I'll finish with this quote. Lao Tzu said, once all restless activity ceases, your integral nature will appear. And your integral nature is that goodness.
That's deep.
Yeah.
So it sounds like, I mean, if I could recap it, a
Yeah.
lot of the times I think as entrepreneurs, it's like, man, I'm doing this thing. I'm doubting myself, I'm procrastinating, whatever it is. And we're trying to fix that behavior, I guess. When in reality, you're like, we need to go back into our, like, why, like, what experiences did we have that are making us feel that way? And why do we view ourselves like that? And how can we change the way that we view ourselves? And as we change that, the rest kind of changes because of that, rather than just going all the way to the end and be like, okay, I just need to, like, tomorrow I need to be more disciplined. It's like, well, what experiences did you have that make you that are causing this? And then start to look at yourself differently.
That's 100% it. Yeah, it's just, we've got to, so I always say what I've learned how to replace behavior change with is becoming behavior curious. So behavior curious becomes behavior change. And so listen, it's a lot easier to try and change a behavior because it gives you an immediate sense of control. And by the way, there's one more graphic that's worth pulling up, and then maybe we'll
Could you
wrap it.
repeat that quote once more, please?
Oh yeah. Once all restless activity ceases, your integral nature will appear.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All protective behaviors, right? All limiting thoughts, all fearful emotion, all protective behaviors are all a subconscious attempt to gain a sense of control. We don't recognize it, but that's what we're trying to do. And that's when we try to change a behavior, it puts us in control. But then you have to ask, kind of like what Dee was alluding to, what is the function of the control? Why do I need to have control? So like when you're procrastinating, control, right? High expectations, control. And when I thought about it for a long time, I realized that it's a way to counterbalance a lack of emotional safety. And if you don't know who you are apart from your most painful memories, you will always feel emotionally unsafe. Right? And so that's why we have to go in and we need to get right with ourselves ultimately, and come back into what I call right relationship. And so, yeah.
Man, I appreciate this. You still need to run in about 3 minutes?
I do. I can text. Let me just text my client real quick.
Is this making sense to everybody? What are
Yeah,
you
it
guys'
does.
thoughts so far?
It does. Thank you so much for putting this together.
Yeah, Michael had explained it to me I think we were on like a call, and I was like, man, it's like it's not complicated, but it's like just in a way that I never would have thought about it. And it's like, I don't know, I think it makes sense because I think, let's say in America, right? Like it's easier to sell a pill than it is to go work out. So we're always looking for that quick fix. And like what you're saying is like, a lot of the times we want the world to change, but it's like we have to go deep and change ourselves, which is like, it is hard to do. But once you're able to do that, it's like you can just be happy every day, really. And then you're just improving your life, but not making the improvements necessary in order for you to become happy. And I think that's especially entrepreneurship or school. I think everyone is like, I need to make this much money to be happy. I need to have this car to be happy. I need to be able to be in this group to be happy. I got it, like all of these things. And it's just so much pressure because then it's like, if you don't achieve it, you're not happy. But then if you do achieve it, a lot of people aren't happy because they don't realize that's not actually what they wanted. So I appreciate you breaking it down and showing us some graphics as well.
Yeah.
It's definitely on an identity level type of work, all of this. That's why they say happiness is an inside job, because it's an identity. That's why when you get that flashy new sick ass car, you're not happy in a week or whatever. That's because it's not the thing that made you happy, it's how you felt, which is accessible to you without the thing.
I have a quick question. If you can answer, do you have time to answer it, or we need to wrap?
I texted my client, so we're good.
Okay. And this is make a little bit about what Rosita was saying, and maybe it's the same answer that you said, but I think it's slightly different. The question is, you have experiences that happened in your life, right? And then based on those experiences, we have these beliefs and then to actions. How do we deal with, let's say it's more in the present, right? So you have people that are telling you certain things. So we don't have to use anyone. For example, let's say like we're all building our business and you have family or friends that are like, oh, this business isn't working. Why don't you quit? Or you're not a good entrepreneur. You're never going to be successful. Like how that, like, yeah, that is an experience, but it's more so other people. And maybe that's kind of what you guys were alluding with the snake, giving them the doubt. But what's a good way to almost reframe that how you see yourself when it's people that you care about that are almost planting those seeds of the beliefs into your mind? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it is. And that's where your practice becomes really important. Because if you're not sitting and humbly receiving, yeah, you're gonna fall prey to what other people think. And so it's which is more true, what people think or the inherent goodness that your life is expressing right now. And so I think, I always say, actually, I guess I haven't said it in a while. What we often think of as doing problems, okay, like, oh man, everyone in my family said I shouldn't do this, and so then we change our mind. We would think of that, oh, well, I'm having a doing problem. No, you're actually having a contemplation problem. You haven't really contemplated deeply enough for as long as you needed to really think about who and what you are and what you're expressing. And so, yeah, if you don't have that deeply rooted practice, you will be susceptible.
It's about knowing, isn't it? It's about knowing who you are, isn't it? It's dropping
Yes.
in. You touched on it earlier. It's dropping into the heart, isn't it? It's getting out your head, dropping into your heart, knowing exactly who you are, being sure and steadfast in your foundation, in your belief,
Yeah, you
in
worded
your
that really good.
understanding of where you're going, and then it doesn't matter, like whether you got God on your back, whether you just know you're part of nature, whatever your belief system is. You just know you just can't be rocked because people say stuff and you're like, actually, I'm part of consciousness, I'm part of God. You can't touch me. Your words, they're just words. That's your opinion, and everyone's entitled to opinion, but it's how we receive that opinion, and it's up to us to say, okay, I take your opinion, I listen to it, but I'm not buying it. Sorry. And it's just being steadfast and knowing exactly where you are, isn't it?
So I
That's
guess, so I guess to say the opposite of that, whenever people's words are affecting us, we're doubting who we really are based on
exactly.
what they're saying. And so the key is becoming more confident. That way it's just words and we're fully confident in what we believe, which is then causing the actions that we have. And so we understand the actions that we have are based on the beliefs we have, and we believe that those are true versus what someone else is saying.
But it takes a lot of inner work, like you said, isn't it? It takes a lot of inner work. It
It
takes a lot of
does.
deep diving and exploration and swimming around in the shite sometimes to go, yeah, all right, that's
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, but it's when you run into the shite, that's the reminder that that's when you realize like, wow, I'm out of practice.
Yeah.
But that's the cue to get back into practice. And
Yeah.
so I can say, I'm either in one of two states. Either I'm in a state of recognizing myself as infinite goodness and acting as such, or I've disconnected from that goodness. I forgot who I was. I'm suffering the consequence, and then I'm re-choosing goodness. So either I'm goodness or re-choosing goodness. That's the only two states that I'm in. Goodness or re-choosing. And so
Man.
even when you become disconnected from your goodness, again, that's still relative. Your absolute nature is goodness. And so this is a little coin that we send to our members. It's a commitment coin. The question on the front, it's the universe, right, with the infinity sign. And the question is, what's half of infinity? Does anyone know what the answer is?
I'm gonna just say
Everything.
infinity because I don't know.
Yeah. 1/100th of infinity is infinity. So even if you're only feeling like half the person you should be, all you are still is infinitely good. And so, that's a grace gift, right? You have to look, that's where the humility comes in, to really become a humble receiver. And then the backside is the emblem of the hero's journey. and it's transforming the chaos in your life into order. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, that's dope. That's a cool coin,
Yeah.
man.
Very cool.
Yeah, thanks. And then, yeah, it's willingly confronting your potential. So, yeah, you know, I'm just trying to give people a way of approaching, you know, behavior change or getting your shit together in a way that feels, you know, opportunistic and inspiring.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's great. Thank you so much, Michael.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Thank you. All right.
Like Bassie's turned into a duck.
Anything else anyone wants to add or ask before we wrap it up?
Just thank you from me, really. Yeah.
Cool.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was great stuff.
She's coming. Maybe.
You can't unmute.
Is there, I think I can, let's see, I can ask you to unmute. Maybe it'll pop up a thing for you. There we go. Does that pop up something?
Yeah,
There you
can
go.
you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I just felt inspired to show you guys the ducks because they just embody that, you know, like they don't doubt themselves. They're like, I want to go swim in the pond, and then they go do that. I want to go catch that bug. And then, you know, they live their joy and they live their themselves, you know, they are just in their being. So yeah, thank you for this conversation. It was really, really interesting, and I loved everybody's feedback. And I was doing animal tours while doing it, so it's nice to be able to join you guys with the animals who embody what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. So effortless, right? Yeah. Cool. Well, so I have a community, obviously, the Whole Person Project. And so if anybody is interested, you'll know where to find me on School. And yeah, just thank you for the time and the opportunity. Dee, I really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you guys. Appreciate you coming in here. Connect with Michael. Obviously, I'll post the replay, but yeah, I think one thing I think that would be cool is not to go on a tangent, but I just feel like there's a lot of, I'll say from my experience, since what we've been talking about, I just feel like there's a lot of communities or programs I've joined where it's just like they're just selling you something and it's not really like community like this. And I think what we're talking about today is something that's important that like we all hold each other like accountable on. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be a shaming thing, but it's like when we have doubt and we have these procrastination, it's like we have to remind each other, like you said, like, bro, you're good, like you're worthy, like you're doing these things, but you also, that's not enough. It's not to just say that. You still got to like say that, but now go do the work. And let's keep doing the work until we feel good by doing the work, but then we're also achieving the things that we want. I think if we're all doing that together, like we're all going to be surprised like what we can achieve together.
That's the power of
Absolutely.
community.
Yeah. One thing that you're saying, Dee, that reminds me of is, right, so there's receiving and then there's expressing that goodness. The evidence that you believe that you are infinitely good is measured by how much you're expressing it, right? And so if you're expressing it, that shows that you actually have and are receiving it, right? So it's through the expression that we receive.
What would be an example of expressing it? Like a couple, just out of curiosity.
Yeah. So let's just say, so like one of the things I'll do in the morning is when I do my goodness practice, so there's like 3 steps. There's recognizing goodness. And basically, if you recognize your own consciousness, that's what it means to recognize your goodness. Then there's receiving the goodness, right? Recognizing it's just a gift, right? And then there's expressing it. And so I visualize myself acting out goodness throughout the day. And so let's just say that's being on School for an hour. That's doing whatever I set out that I want to do for my day. That is an expression of what's deeply good about me. It's actually doing those things. Right. So there's the rehearsing it, there's seeing it, but then there's acting it out.
Man,
so then your life becomes about practice, like truly about practice. Then it's all practice. Then actually my life feels largely like a living meditation. Because I'm already, I already rehearsed this whole thing today already. Right now I just showed up and did it.
Yeah. And you killed it.
And That's embodied goodness.
Like
Yeah.
when I'm teaching yoga, I'm doing the delivery, I'm doing the do this, do that, do that. When people are sitting down and being still, I just sit there and from my heart just send out love to everybody, love to healing and all that kind of stuff. So I'm energetically giving out energy to the people. Like it's just that they don't come for that. They come for the physicality. Most people come for the stillness of the mind, but it's just a little extra feature that I'd throw in there. Call it energy healing, call it Reiki, call it love, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter what you call it. It's all the same stuff. So that's just embodying that. It's just like live it. Just start to live it. Let it flow. Whereas it's
Lovely.
you do the same when you're playing the piano for school for no reason. It's just like right, just bring a bit of joy
Yeah.
in. That's you just oozing that in there. You know, that's what it's about, isn't it? It's just give
Yeah.
for the sake of giving, not to receive. And then the stuff comes back.
You know, I taught my son Jackson, 17, and I've been coaching him since he's like probably 8 or 9. And so he has 3 Post-its in his office, in his bedroom, with 4. All I am is goodness. Goodness is all I am is 1, right? And then he has 1 Post-it that says unconditional, another one that says unlimited, another one that says unearned. And so like he's really made this part of his life, and it's very cool to see how, you know, that's unfolded for him. And he's such a, you know, like so many kids are attracted to him, and like he's got a lot going for him, but I just see like there's this deep, it's knowing. It's like what you said before, Matt. It's like, right, it's that knowing. And so
You're doing a great job, man.
thanks, dude.
It's dope
Thanks.
to hear that.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool.
Cool. Alrighty, guys. Well, appreciate you all coming on, and yeah, I'm sure we'll see you guys in the community, and then I'll let you guys know when I post this.
Okay, great.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Steve. See you
Thank
guys.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.